Welcome everyone to the T.R.O.N podcast. This is your host, Rashad Woods, all the way live from the UK. We have a highly respected entrepreneur, businesswoman, all-around hustler, and pulled herself up by her bootstraps, Miss Elizabeth Solaru. Thank you very much for your time. I'm very appreciative.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Rashad. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, when you messaged me and I had a chance to look up your accomplishments, I mean, they're startling, and you did this exclusively by yourself. I mean, I don't want to overtalk your accomplishments, but it read like a book, which you wrote, of course, because that's what people like you do in the success you've achieved. Please, give us a rundown on how you became, the successful businesswoman that you are.
Okay, so I'm going to go slightly back. I went to university. I studied microbiology. I became a scientist.
I saw that.
And sorry, you saw that, right?
Yeah.
Became a scientist. So did microbiology, did my master's, and I started working in a hospital. And after moving to different hospitals, after about 15 years, I decided there has to be more to life than becoming a lab rat. So I knew I wanted to do business, but I didn't know what. Right. So I went off, I did an MBA, and then I quickly realized that having another degree is not going to really get me the kind of role I wanted. So I started networking. And it was while I networking, and I don't know how, I talked myself into becoming a headhunter. So I started recruiting chief executives, finance directors, never even having run a lemonade stand. So I did that for several years. And as you know, after several years, 2008, unfortunately, the markets tanked, it crashed. Right. And then I thought to myself, oh my God, what do I do? Yeah. So I decided to revisit a childhood dream of mine, which was making cakes. Yeah. And I set up my cake company, and it quickly became apparent that I needed clients, but I didn't know how to get clients. Right. So I had to figure it out. And I did two things. The first thing was I took the yellow pages and I called every event planner in the book. And as you can imagine, they all said, of course, Elizabeth. No, they didn't. They all said no.
Yes.
They also, and many of them were very rude. They all said no. However, one Wednesday afternoon, I called a number, and at the other end was a young lady, and she said, do you make cupcakes? And I said, of course we make cupcakes. Right. And I said to her, I'm going to be in your area in the next 3 days. Can I bring you some samples?
This was New York, did you say?
No, London. This was London.
Okay, I thought you said New York when you said you called.
No. This was London. No, or London. I wish it was New York.
I thought I heard New York. I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right. So I then made the samples. Yeah. After 3 days, I delivered the cupcakes. And that was how I got my first high-profile client. Right. Who happened to be, this lady was Lady Elizabeth. And she happened to be the direct cousin, the first cousin of the late Queen Elizabeth. So calling 120 people, I had to call 120 people to get to her in the book, but it was worth it. So she then, she was incredible. She was most importantly, she was a nice person. Right. Because after the event, she then wrote me a letter. And she wrote me a letter to say, your cakes tasted the best because we used 3 cake makers for that event, but yours tasted the best. And you can use this letter in all your marketing material. She didn't mind me using her name. And that was one of the biggest breaks of my life. I talk about it in my book, The Luxpreneur.
Unbelievable.
So that kind of like got me a step up, not very much, but it was a door. It was a door. And then I did a couple of other things as well. Right. Try and get clients, very basic things, nothing complicated. What I did was my delivery driver at the time, he told me about it. He said, my company, that he works for, they leaflet different areas, the whole of London.
Yes.
And I said, oh, if you're leafleting the whole of London, can you put, if I give you some cards, can you put them in the letterboxes of the very nice addresses? So the gated communities, only nice addresses. And he said, yes. And that's exactly what I did. So again, that, you know, because I didn't have any money, by the way, so I had to do things.
I saw that.
You know, yeah.
You had one mixer and 40 pounds, right? Which is like the, you know, U.S. equivalent. I mean, everybody can kind of read. That's not that much that you're working with. You know what I mean?
It's not that much. So, and the mixer wasn't even new. It was a secondhand mixer that I had lying around in my flat. And I just thought, you know, why not? And literally that was how I started. So that's how the cake thing started. And after the cake thing, as you know, the pandemic hit. And once the pandemic hit, we all had to pivot. And that was when I started getting invitations to speak about luxury clients. And that started another aspect to my business, talking about luxury clients.
You know, I got to say, when you had that letter, that there's no publicist that can replace the letter that you received. You know, I don't want to talk because this is about you, and what you just said was amazing. But anybody who would have wanted to be, hey, Elizabeth, I can do this for you, I can do this for you, I can do this for you. You can't replace that, what you just got put into your hand.
Exactly.
That's priceless.
Exactly. And so, and I'm forever grateful. That's why I'm so grateful. And I think, you know, gratitude is one of the things. And every time I talk about it, I always talk about this lady. She's no longer with us, but I talk about her to let people know that there is nothing, you know, the universe sometimes will open incredible doors for you. Yeah.
I thought one of your greatest quotes I saw was change before you have to. And that struck really deeply when I read that, because, you know, it's the process of evolution, right? So Apple started off with big computers and floppy disks. And then they had a really tough time when Microsoft kind of started taking their lunch. And then all of a sudden they pivoted to iPhones and iPads, and then they gained market again. So when you changed when you saw that things were taking place, rather than when your business was, I have no choice and now I have to start from scratch. And can you just go into that a little bit deeper?
Yeah, I love that. And thank you. This is actually a brilliant question, because you, when you talk about Apple, the screen that we see on our phones today, Steve Jobs saw it in another company. But they didn't, they were sitting on it. They literally did not know what to do with it. So he saw it, stole it. And again, this is why. So for me, when it comes to having to pivot or having to change, it was a series of things that happened. But what I did initially was, let me start thinking about the future. Like you said, you dig your well before you're thirsty. So I thought, future. So I had invitations to speak. And the one thing I realized was that in the luxury space, a lot of the books on luxury were written by professors of luxury. So they were written beautifully, really well, very academic. But many people who are entrepreneurs, you want the practical things that you can do now. Right. So when you get a book or when you are listening to someone, you want tips and hints of something you can do straight away. And I found that a lot of those books did not provide that. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was that not many people could confidently talk about luxury clients and the different types of luxury clients, because many people think that luxury clients are people with money. And yes, they have money, but their buying patterns are completely different depending on what luxury type they are. So all I had to do was look at my 10,000 emails and then analyze, the scientist in me. I put them in different categories and boom, I found 8 types of luxury clients. So having to prepare beforehand, before I needed to, that kind of came natural. So when I started talking on different platforms, people were very interested to learn about luxury clients. And that's how that came about.
And so I have to ask, do you have a team? I've seen people that obviously you work with, when it comes to your coaching, which we'll get into as well too. But it seems like, you've really dug deep into the psychology of buying patterns and how people can convert. Hey, I have a great presentation, I have a great product, I've gotten great feedback, but I don't have consistent business or consistent customers that are purchasing my products. And you get deep into that. What did you notice when people think of luxury and you don't come from a luxury background? How do you bridge that gap to
That's another brilliant question. And
Yeah.
the first thing, and I talk about it in my book, is your mindset. You
Okay.
need to work on your mindset. I promise you, some luxury products, not all, but some luxury products are regular schmegular products that people have put a high price tag on. I promise you. Some of them are so mediocre, but it's a matter of branding, it's a matter of packaging, and it's a matter of positioning.
It's like the
So
$50 bottles of water, right?
exactly. And also context as well, because you would pay $50 for a bottle of water if you are on a flight and that's the last bottle of water left.
Absolutely.
And you're flying over the Sahara Desert. And, when you do that, you're so thirsty,
Right.
you will pay anything for water.
Right.
So again, once people understand that, so in my book, for example,
Okay.
I talk about the different types of luxury brand founders. And once you know your founder type, so for example, when I typed myself, I'm a visionary and I'm a craftsman. So I fall under two. Now, as a craftsman, that means as an artisan, I pay attention to craftsmanship. And as a visionary, I'm always thinking of what's next.
Right.
But the downside to being both is that as a craftsman, and I'm paying attention to my product, which was my cakes, I'm not thinking about costs. I'm not thinking about how to sell. I'm not thinking about my clients. In some cases, I'm thinking about me and creating this most amazing product.
Right. But it never met their need.
Exactly. And also it's because I'm fulfilling my needs, right? And also as a visionary, I am not grounded in the present. I'm not thinking about paying the rent, employing people. I'm always about what's next. So once you know yourself and you know what type of founder you are, then you can assemble the right team or the right people around you that would put you in the best position and also curb some of your excesses. And once you know who you are, you are able to confidently sell to the ultra high net worth, because the first thing they want to do is know about you. They want to know, who are you? Where are you from? They really will ask you, where are you from? We want to know about you. Are you a genuine, authentic person, or are you another person with a handout wanting to take their money for nothing? So again, the knowledge starts with, so you need to know yourself, number one. Then you need to know the type of luxury brand you want to be. Because do you want to be aspirational? So you want to sell to maybe only 10,000 people on the planet, or do you want to be ultra high end where you're only selling to 2 or 3 people in a year, but to get to those 2 or 3 people, you need to go through 300 people. Just like I phoned 120 planners to get to my one person. Beautiful. So those are some of the things you need to understand before you even start thinking of selling in the luxury space.
Well, wasn't it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it like Louis Vuitton was selling like he had like a carriage and he was selling handbags to like soldiers, for going back and forth from they were like there were bags for soldiers or travelers, and that's how it became a luxury item, because then it worked its way up to royalty after they saw, infantrymen having baggages and handbags and things of that nature. If I'm wrong, correct me, please.
No, not at all. That is an excellent illustration, actually. That is such a perfect story.
Right.
Because this is what many people don't know about Louis Vuitton. So let's start slightly from the beginning.
Right.
When he was 13, he left his village.
Yes.
He walked barefoot 300 miles to Paris. So he arrived in Paris. It took him 2 years to do the 300 miles. He arrived in Paris when he was 15. and he became an apprentice to a box maker.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly. And that box maker was making boxes for travelers and soldiers, as you correctly said.
Yes.
But Louis Vuitton did two things. The first thing he did was notice that the box maker was using leather, and he decided that why don't we use a certain material, like a canvas material that was water resistant.
Right.
So he introduced that. So they started doing that. And obviously, as you rightly said, because a lot of soldiers were using that material, the word spread. Now, also, they ended up making boxes for Napoleon's wife. She became a client. And then he then did another observation. He realized that a lot of the trunks in those days, they had rounded tops. And he said to himself, what if we make the tops flat?
Okay.
And that way you can stack many trunks on top of each other if the tops are flat.
Right.
So today we take it for granted that trunks are flat.
Correct.
But he kind of started that. So again, that was another thing he did. So, and you're absolutely right in saying that. And that's how he kind of worked his way into the upper echelon, etc. So experimenting with material, experimenting with shapes, and boom. So he didn't do anything extraordinary, but it was innovative for that time.
Now, how did you find out the quality that you needed to meet to get the clients that you got? Because you're working in your kitchen, exclusively by yourself. And I always use this analogy, I can cook, but it tastes good to me. Right. So like that to get people who have specific tastes, how did you actually know that yours was going to meet the standard of clients that were willing to pay?
To be honest with you, I didn't.
It's okay.
I didn't at the time, but there were a couple of things I did. So because I used to work as a headhunter, I was very lucky that on my expense account, I could expense if I took a client out for dinner, if I took a client out for lunch. So I immersed myself in a different world of restaurants.
Nice.
Good restaurants, not necessarily high end, not necessarily like opulent, but really good. Where and I remember we used to go to this restaurant called the Bleeding Heart. It was a French restaurant, and it was from the outside, it wasn't the most opulent, but it was an amazing restaurant.
Okay.
And for me, I remember the service. So if you went the one time, they would always remember what you had the last time, your preferences in terms of how you like your water, how you like your wine. They will remember. And it was all handwritten. So the maitre d' was fantastic. And the place was run with efficiency. And they never seemed to write anything down. Everything was memorized. So that was an introduction to luxury on another level.
Correct.
And the luxury that wasn't all blingy, but luxury.
Personalization.
Exactly. Personalization and a deep, intense kind of luxury. So that was number one. And then a couple of having to go to different galas and stuff like that. But again, the focus with me, because I like my food, so the focus was on food. So I knew there were certain recipes. So for example, even things like buttercream, there's English buttercream and there's American buttercream. And I didn't really like both, but I found an American baker. She's the queen of cakes, long rest her soul, called Sylvia Weinstock.
Okay.
And she would talk about Swiss meringue buttercream. And I went online, I found the recipe. I still use that recipe till today.
Beautiful.
And my other recipes, I had loads of disasters with cakes. Some were heavy, some were light. But when I then found, and I say this to people, my secret is consistency. When I found recipes that worked, I then stick to them. And I might do variations, but I stick to recipes that work. Right. And another thing I was willing to do was offer about 50 different flavors. So I had a couple, for example, they had a Japanese themed wedding. I'm talking about maybe 2009 or 2008. And I came up with a matcha and white chocolate cake with plum jam, which was unusual. So again, these are things. Oh no, was it? No, sorry. It was wasabi. It was wasabi and white chocolate with plum jam.
You could have
And then
told me the other one, and I still would have believed you because I wouldn't have known the difference.
but the thing is, though,
Yeah.
For me, it was diving deep into research. You have a base for what works,
Right.
and then you can do your variations on that. So with that, as I was growing my business, I was growing more confident. And another thing I did was I would always, every year, send free samples to
Nice.
some of my best clients.
For sure.
So, and I'll say to them, if you hate it, it's great. If you
Yeah.
love it, good. But if you hate it, it's even better because I need your feedback. So again, that is how you can test before you actually launch. Yeah.
Well, when you said that, I thought it was interesting because I was listening to one podcast you were on, and you said you need to embrace being ridiculed. You need to embrace being laughed at or being, for lack of a better term, embarrassed, right? And so I can only imagine in the food making business, I say this very sensitively, people are very particular about what they eat, and they're, doesn't matter what your status or class is in life, they'll give you the real truth if they really are honest with you. And so when you said, I'm going to put myself out there to my clients, I don't care if you think it's bad, that's just better feedback to improve my brand and my services. And that's a wonderful tip to people.
Oh, absolutely. And also, if you're in the food business, give it to a child as well. Feed your food to a child.
Yeah.
Because children,
they won't lie.
Exactly, they won't. Like they'll literally, spit it out. So you need, so you need to be able to be resilient in, and this, you need to build your resilience and say it's not you that is being rejected, it's the product. It's a product. It's nothing to do with you. It's the product. And once you then realize, okay, what would make it better? What can I do to blah, blah, blah? Or is it even a bad idea? Do I need to scrap it? And many luxury brands, I use the analogy when they showcase Couture Week, right? And they have buyers in the audience and they have members of the public, gawping, looking in through the window, looking in from outside the club. A lot of members of the public ridicule their designs, right?
Right.
But the proof is if the buyers actually buy the designs.
Right.
If the buyers buy into it, if the tastemakers, the magazine editors, if they think the collection is viable.
Right.
Because sometimes you can have a commercially successful collection.
Right.
Or you can have a collection that is artistically amazing, but is not commercially successful.
Correct.
And that's why I admire designers like Tom Ford, because Tom Ford, he is a rare in that he combines both. So he's both commercial as well as artistic. Right. So we need to also embrace that in our businesses. So your product may not sell, not because it's a bad product, but because it's just not resonating or hitting with the client.
Correct. And that makes a lot of sense too. And, it's people are finicky too. So you always have to stay on the latest, trends. And I thought, being able to go to your Instagram and to your LinkedIn, people now consume information in very short bits, very quickly. Is it visually 95% of what we deal with now is what's visually appealing at the exact moment. So immediately when I saw your cakes, even if I'm not the biggest, cake guy in the world, I'm like, oh dang, wow, she really makes these. And you stop and you're scrolling and you're like, this is just beautiful. It's well done. And so you hit the nail on the head that I'm more interested in seeing that, and then I want to follow you as a result. I would not leave without asking you about your coaching session in your coaching business, because I think it's important. Again, I don't want to talk too much. You've taken what was successful, what you failed at, what you struggled with, and you have the tools for people to be successful from what you've done. Can you talk about your coaching, please?
Yes. So the coaching, I do different types of coaching. It depends on what you want, where you are with your business and what you want to do. So again, I love my coaching to be centered around the entrepreneur. And I also recognize that as entrepreneurs, we are time poor. So we go straight to strategies that you can implement straight away, strategies that would bring you what it is you're after. So with many people, it's often, I need to find rich clients, or I want clients that would buy from me. So we then start working from the bottom up. If your goal is to have a client that is a certain type, we design the ideal client for you, whoever they are, and then we start working on what would attract that client. I'm also conscious of the fact that many people have never even done a deep dive into themselves. They don't even know how their products are received. So I even use the mystery shopping. So a lot of luxury brands, they use mystery shoppers. And many of us in our small businesses, we never use mystery shopping. If we do mystery shopping, we normally use friends and family who are going to tell you you're amazing anyway. So I will even introduce elements of mystery shopping. So I can tell you honestly, this is where, you think you've got this amazing product, but this is where your product actually sits. And this is how you can improve. And this is what you need to do. And this is the feedback. So again, with the coaching, I also do lots of speaking engagements. I'm invited by many luxury brands to train their people. Because, for example, if I go to a hotel, there are certain things I'm looking for straight away, from the car park to the welcome mat to the revolving doors. There are certain things I am clocking straight away, and I'm jotting them down and I'm writing them. So those inspections are the lifeblood of many hotels. And this is how, when you go to a really nice hotel, like a 5-star hotel, this is why their standards are consistent all the time, because they are busy nitpicking. They're busy looking for what is wrong, as opposed to us in our business. We are always looking for what we're doing well. So those are some of so that's how my coaching works.
And I think you hit a nail on the head too, because no matter what the income of the customer, the internet will not be your best friend if you don't have a good product, right? And so, I mean, everybody can literally, while they're walking into that hotel or that restaurant, be typing up the review while they're being served by the person behind the counter, in real time.
Absolutely. And this is no joke, because even social media platforms now, they are acting as reviewers. Even people who've never set foot in your restaurant, they already have an impression based on what other people are saying. So nowadays, those standards are, I wouldn't say they're getting more and more difficult, but I think a little mistake can be blown out of proportion if you are not careful.
Correct. And so, I think when you told people to make sure that they need to focus on, themselves, and then you manage their time, I love the part where you said, how would you like to have a time session with an expert, free from social media, the phone calls, all the other distractions? And you said, this is just me and you breaking down exactly where you want to go, because you had to make those 120 phone calls to be rejected before you found the one that said yes. And so that's why I devised, the randomness of nothing. I couldn't bake a cake if you gave one in my hand and it was 90% finished. Okay. But I just couldn't do it. Right. But I felt that if I talked to people like you, who were fortunate enough to give me your time, that it could resonate with people, that it's not about what you had in the bank account. It's about your drive and your will.
Oh, absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. And also, don't get me wrong, my path is paved with stones of failure. So don't think that, I just picked up the phone and it happened. No, it didn't. But my point is, every failure was building my muscle of resilience and persistence. And also the fact that I've got to eat, I've got to have clients, whether I like it or not. I've got to find them. And for me, it was a non-negotiable. I had to succeed because I didn't know if I could do anything else. And I got to a milestone age where I thought, do I really want to work for anybody? Let me work for myself. But although I claim I'm working for myself, I'm not. I'm actually working for my clients, whether past, present, or future. I'm still working for somebody. And I think that's the joy of being an entrepreneur. That whether you like it or not, you're still working for somebody, but you can at least control who you're working for. That's the only difference. Right. So yeah. And I believe that there are certain things that took me 15, 20 years to learn. And I put all those learnings in my book, The Luxpreneur. So that way you don't have to make the same mistakes that I've made.
Right.
And in fact, I've been invited by many business schools to teach what's in the books, because people, the students learning about luxury business or luxury brand management, they don't want theory. They want practical.
Right. And they want immediate gratification too.
And they want results straight away. So my book is actually written for people who want results. So I'm not heavy on theory, but I'm very heavy on things you can do and how you can do it. And that's the hack with my book.
I'll just, say this before we depart. I think the one thing, the internet has been great because it's kind of democratized a lot of processes, but it's also, for lack of a better term, visualize to people that it's somehow a shortcut to do certain things, because all they see is a finished product in the screen, right? Or all they see is a YouTube video of, and I love the way you put on your website where you're like, this is the real deal. This is not, some false prophet, right? For lack of a better term, right? You went through a lot of tears and a lot of crying to get where you got. And I think people look at a YouTube video and somebody says, oh, I started on Monday, on Friday, I got 500,000 views and downloads, and here I am, Mr. Beast already, so to speak, right? And that's just not how it operates.
No. And you would find that your Mr. Beasts and other people, they have a massive team behind them.
Oh my goodness.
It didn't happen in a vacuum.
No.
Yes, they might show you the early days of the grinding, but I promise you there's a massive team and a massive amount of support behind them. But for many of us, we don't have that. Many of us don't. And that's how it is. But there are still things that you can do, even if you don't have a massive team behind you.
Correct. Well, I got to tell you, this is Elizabeth Solaru. Real quick, how can people find you, your business? You've already, they don't need me to find you. I just want anything last you want to say before we wrap this up for you. I appreciate your time and wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you very much for having me on your podcast, Rashad. I am really, really honored to be here. We've had a lovely conversation.
Yeah.
For people to find me, I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my preferred platform. I'm on LinkedIn, and every day I try to talk about one thing you can do in your luxury business. So I did my post today, and every day for the month of February, which is Black History Month in America, I posted about a Black luxury business in solidarity, especially with what's going on right now around the world. So just want to say you can find me on LinkedIn as Elizabeth Solaru. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on TikTok as Elizabeth Solaru. And you can find me on Instagram as Elizabeth's Cake Emporium.
Thank you so much for your time.